Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 278, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. This week I had a very light haul, which was only 12 books, but it looks like next week I'll have kind of my normal, a little heavier haul, so it's just very uneven for some reason for me with some of my reading recently. Sometimes I get really heavy hauls, and then there's weeks like this where I just get like 12 books. But anyways, let's move on. So number 12 for me this week is Return of Wolverine, issue 5. Really did not like this book, just this series in general. It just didn't feel needed. I kind of wish Wolverine just showed up in Uncanny X-Men and that's it. Just was fully disappointed. And because I really did like Death of Wolverine a lot, this is the same creative team, but it all felt very filler to me, and I just could not get invested. And then I look at the end of this book, and Road to Wolverine coming back, all those miniseries, this miniseries wasn't enough, because now we have a Wolverine Infinity Watch series. So I thought that was just going to be like a one-off story where it's just like, oh, here's a random Wolverine story. But supposedly it's continuing from this. So I did not pick up that book this week, and I'm just kind of done with the Wolverine journey for now, unless he gets an ongoing book that seems interesting. But I'm Wolverined out, even though he's been gone. I'm out, and I'm sad to say that because I love Wolverine as a character, but I haven't been liking his stories recently. So overall, I'm going to give this one 2 stars. Sorry, I'm giving this one 2 stars. The only thing I really liked was the art, and I don't even think this was McNiven's best art style either. So, especially with the coloring contrasting it, I didn't love some of the coloring here. So, like I said, giving this one 2 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is a book I was actually really looking forward to, and that is Love Romances, issue 1. And at least I get this cover, because I love this cover. This is my cover of the week. As you guys know, huge MJ and Spider-Man fan, so very much like that. And I love Russell Doterman's artwork, so that was a good grab. But the story, it's an anthology series. It's the only one-shot Marvel book that looking back book that I got. I don't know what they're calling them. I guess it's part of the Young Guns lineup. Marvel tends to do that like once a year. But anyways, the stories we get to see, I enjoy the Gail Simone one the most, where we get to see this widow hooking up with a robot type character because he misses his wife. So I'm like, oh, that was kind of cool. Then other than that, like I got the twists for the other stories, but I just didn't really feel invested in any of the romances overall, so nothing that really grabbed me like I wanted with a title like this. So I gave this one 2.5 stars. I mean, that's the thing with anthology series. Sometimes you can really like a story, and sometimes the other ones aren't so great, so that's kind of what happened here. And even the Gail Simone story, sadly, I wasn't as attached to it as I wanted for me to be. So giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 11. Moving on to number 10, sad to see this so low, and that is Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue 3. It was between this and my next one, because the next one was kind of the same level, but I like the story a little bit more for the next one. But anyways, this one just felt very fillerish. I just kind of over this arc already. It's only issue 3, but I feel like you could have skipped this issue and you'd be completely okay. So, and I didn't get as much as the snark that I usually like for this title, and the great character moments I usually like with Tom Taylor's writing. I didn't get as much in this one. And the artwork is okay for the books. Overall, for me, this was kind of a skippable issue, but hopefully next issue I'll feel a little better about this arc and Rumor. I think her name is Rumor as a whole. I believe that was her name. Or the old lady's name. But yeah, I give this 2.5 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Miles Morales Spider-Man, issue 3. So this one, again, was kind of neck and neck with Friendly Neighborhood. But I liked the Captain America Miles team up a little bit more, even if I didn't like the artwork as much. I don't know why, I just don't really like the art style for this one, for Miles Morales. But the story, again, I like the Captain America stuff. I love that Miles like, hey, this is a dude you look up to. And then, Captain America trying to give Miles advice. And I liked Rhino here as well. But the overall story with the children and the ending, I really wasn't invested from the beginning about. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. It wasn't really worth picking up, but I think there's some good panels here and there if you're a Cap fan especially. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 8, which is The Amazing Nightcrawler, issue 1. So far, this is the lowest out of the Age of X-Men, or X-Man, yeah, Age of X-Men stories so far, because I've been really liking them. And I didn't hate this one by any means. I thought the artwork was pretty solid. There are times where I think facial expressions could have been a little better, but overall, solid artwork. It's just kind of the same themes we've been getting, and I'm not a huge Nightcrawler fan, so it didn't do much for me. I'm sure if you like Nightcrawler, you'll like the story a lot more, but the ending is the same exact ending that we've been getting. Is just, yes, this is a perfect world, except no one loves each other. No one has relationships, so everyone's sneaking around having relationships. And same thing's going on with Nightcrawler. So I'm like, all right, I saw that one coming. I am interested in the Cuckoos, though, because they're not allowed to have a relationship either as sisters. So that I thought was a little different from what we've been getting in every other title for these Age of X-Men. It's so weird to say X-Men instead of X-Men. But yeah, another thing I did like about this book, though, is the look into, like, the film industry. I thought was a cool thing, especially having the X-Men in it. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. But like I said, 3 stars for me. I'll probably pick up the next issue just because I've been picking up all these titles for this event. And it wasn't a bad issue, just wasn't one of my favorites from the lineup so far. But it definitely gave me enough to try another issue out. Alright, moving on to number 7 already. And that is Exorsisters, issue 5. So Exorsisters, I like this book. It is usually a middle ground book for me, but it's always fun to read. I like looking more at these sisters and more at this world. But a lot of the issues do feel very one-shotty to me, so I kind of wish that there was a little bit more of an overall arc. I think there's definitely a character arc going on, because you get to see a bit more with the sisters and the mom, but I want that to be even more involved. But you do learn a lot more about the sisters, and maybe that Kate with a K existed a little bit before this whole separation. So that could be kind of interesting to look into. So like I said, still a really solid book, and I always have fun with it. So I'm going to give that one 3.5 stars. Alright, moving on to number 6, and that is Batman, issue 66. Yeah, this is a hard one for me, because I like Gotham Girl a lot, and I didn't hate the story by any means. I think there's some really good writing in it. I like the whole Gotham Girl looking for origins, because hers kind of sucks, because she wasn't even there for her traumatic event, and her brother was. And I like that, but I also dislike the treatment of Gotham Girl, where they just kind of feel like they're throwing her away. They're like, all right, she's gonna blow up now. So I do feel like it's very much Batman's narrative and not Claire's, and I don't love the treatment of that for Claire, because I think she has potential to be so much more and a really interesting character, and no one's really pushing that from her. I mean, it's nice that we're getting this arc, but I have a feeling this is a goodbye arc for Claire, not, all right, let's see more of her arc. So, yeah, overall giving this one 3.5 stars. Definitely not a bad issue. Like I said, I really like the artwork for this book. I like the writing, especially the dialogue and the stuff between Batman and Flash, but overall don't know about the journey of Claire, and that's why it couldn't make my top 5 this week. But moving on to number 5, which is Teen Titans issue 27. This was a pretty solid book this week, where we get to see definitely things slowing down. It's more about the characters interacting with each other, but I like the character interactions. The only one I couldn't get invested in is that new, I think her name's Jeannie. I didn't really care about her exposition background story, but that might be because I've just recently started picking up Teen Titans again, like with issue 25, so I don't know her journey as much, so maybe people that are more dedicated to her story will like that exposition a bit more. But I like the small character moments. I like Crush and Red Arrow interacting, and Red Arrow trying to explain her rage, even though she's very calm about it, and obviously Crush expresses her rage very differently with her father and the connection to her father. And then I really liked Roundhouse and Kid Flash's stuff, especially learning more about Roundhouse's family. That was fun. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. It hasn't gone to that 4-star level for me yet, but I'm hopefully inching up to really, really enjoy this book. But so far, it's more of a middle book for me. Alright, moving on to number 4, which is Jughead the Hunger, issue 12, which is the penultimate issue of this series, which I've been pretty much enjoying. I think it's been a really solid series, and this one does the same thing. We get to see Jughead and his cousin Bingo interacting, get some action with Betty and Archie, but the thing that makes it is the end, where we get to see Jellybean just trying to have a normal life, but there is Bingo trying to ruin her normal life here. So I'm excited to see where that's going to go. So overall, I had fun with this issue. I always have fun with this kind of Elseworld story. So I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3. This is a little lower than it was, but that is Naomi issue 2. Really quick read. I read this in definitely less than 5 minutes. There is not as much dialogue in this as I expected, but I think we get a good continuation. There are some, let's say, structure hiccups, definitely written for trade. So the first page is a complete continuation of that last page that, if you remember a month ago that you read, you get kind of a recap of it. So it's a weird transition for me. And then another issue I kind of had was the parents. I don't know how to feel about them. I wanted to love them after kind of exiting that conversation, but they were just kind of weird. And maybe that's the point, is because we're supposed to be in Naomi's point of view of like, oh, are they hiding something? And obviously they are, but I wanted to care for them a little bit more. But overall, I like and why it's my number 3 pick is that I did like the small hints of who Naomi is. We get a little bit more about who that garage guy is. We get her dreams, so that how she's connected to maybe Superman or something else. And the artwork is drop dead gorgeous for this book. I love that. I feel like I'm watching a movie in the way the panels are structured. So I really like the artwork for this book. I mean, look at these double page spreads. I'm amazed by that. So artwork is so good. So overall, I'm gonna give this one 4 stars. It wasn't as good as the first issue, but I'm still totally invested in this story, and I hope this could be one of my favorite DC titles out right now. Now moving on to number 2, which is Jessica Jones, Purple Daughter, issue 2. Every single time I enter this book, I'm like, oh man, do we need more Purple Man? Like, what can you do different with him? And then Kelly Thompson does something completely different, and I really enjoyed this issue, where we get to see Jessica teaming up with Emma Frost. And man, Kelly Thompson knows how to write Emma Frost. I loved her in this book. And we get to see that finally who's behind these purple children, and also Luke Cage being controlled by this person, and that is Purple Man's son. So there's some really good reveals here, some great character moments, from the emotional moments to the funny moments between Emma and Jessica. I really feel like I had it all. And usually my complaint with this book is that, oh, it's kind of too long. I don't love that it's 2 issues, but I really didn't feel that as much with this issue, and I actually really enjoyed that. I got all that Emma Frost stuff right away with the second issue. So I really enjoyed this one, and the artwork is so good as well. Really expresses those emotions well. So overall, I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, a book that I usually don't have on my pull list, but I read the last issue of, just, out of my spare time, and that was Unstoppable Wasp, issue 5. I read issue 4 because I heard good stuff about it. I heard they were tackling bipolar disorder. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I want to see how that's played out. And I read that last issue. I'm like, whoa, this is heavier than I expected. With a kind of, I wouldn't say a comedy book, but definitely like a more fun, cartoony book. And then issue 5 blew me away. The way they tackled this, and it really the realistic way that they tackled this. And I like that the way Nadia's friends reacted to her, because there's one friend who has dealt with mental health, so she understands like kind of how to talk to Nadia, and then everyone else is like, I don't know what's going on, I just got punched in the face, what do I do? So you kind of have this very realistic reaction, even though these are her best friends. They're like, get away from me, like what are you doing? And I thought this was a really real way to do this, and we get to see Nadia sneak into her world, and then her friend kind of express about what happened to her brother and how her brother committed suicide. So there's some really heavy topics here, but I loved how Nadia reacted to it. She's like, well, my brain's broken. I'm the smartest person in the world, but there's a part of me that doesn't work, and that I'm the villain of this story, and I'm not... especially with Nadia, like, she just wants to be a superhero. That's all she wants. So I thought that was some really great stuff, some good character moments. And then, you know, Nadia just coming with the realizations, like, okay, this is something I have to tackle. How do I tackle it? So I thought it was a really powerful issue. And I don't think enough stories tackle mental health the way that this did. It's obviously a really important story of either if you have issues with mental health, or if you are a friend that doesn't know how to deal with someone who has, mental health issues. So I thought this was a really needed book, and I really enjoyed it. And again, the artwork was kind of an interesting contrast to see this more cartoonier style bring this very moody story, and I really enjoyed that as well. So overall, I'm going to give that 4.5 stars, and that is my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Definitely go check out my Twitter and Facebook page, my comic books like Father Like Daughter and They Call Her the Dancer, and every Tuesday at on Comic Frontline at 10 p.m. Eastern Time is Frontline Live, where we discuss our top 5 comics and comic book news, so be sure to check that out as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno, and I'll see you guys next week with another Comic Uno episode / Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. Thanks, guys. Bye.